Well, they did it. The Higurashi team pulled the wool over our eyes. For months, we've assumed that this 2020 anime would be a remake, and the first episode seemed to confirm that it was, but then we got this. Not just an opening that directly referenced the previous series, but a new title. Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Go, with Go perhaps meaning karma, or the fate resulting from one's actions in past lives, as Funimation says. So, this 2020 series is a new chapter in the Higurashi story, which begs the question, is this show only meant for returning fans, or can new fans watch it and enjoy it as it progresses? It's a tough question to answer, especially since there are only 2 episodes out, but I need to confront it as I promised in my first video that I would hold off on referencing previous works out of consideration for new fans. I have to decide. Do I assume that this is meant as another season of Higurashi, albeit many years after the originals aired, and thus everything in the previous seasons should be considered common knowledge? Or is this something more unclear, with many things older fans will appreciate, but which is still accessible to new viewers? The knee-jerk reaction is to say this is Higurashi Season 3, excluding the OVA series. That opening definitely makes it seem that way. But throughout this episode, I noticed that a lot of things that could have been explained weren't. Yes, fans that know the story from the first 2 seasons get a lot more meaning out of things, but I don't feel like a new fan would be completely lost. On the contrary, the episode actually seemed to be encouraging new viewers to not feel left out, to keep watching and try to puzzle things out for themselves. For that reason, I'm going to stick to my guns and not reference the first 2 seasons, or the grander story of Hinamizawa that, I imagine, will be made clear as this series progresses. I may change this with subsequent episodes, but I feel that it's important to remember that the anime adaptation of Higurashi, minus the OVAs, finished airing almost 12 years ago. Some of the people watching this show now were in elementary school back then, and there's a good chance they never watched those series. Finally, if someone wants to know what happened in those series, they can look it up themselves. It's not hard to find out what happened. I'm pretty sure you could spend 10 minutes on Wikipedia and learn the gist of it. But once something's spoiled, it can never be unspoiled. I don't want to be the cause of that. All that said, let's get on to the fun. And the confusion. Man, Higurashi and confusion. It feels like old times. The episode starts with Rika, well, a slightly older Rika it looks like, waking up in a gnarly space dimensional area. Weird. A floating girl appears before her with horns, and Rika immediately knows who she is. Hanyu, she says. Rika asks what's going on, and Hanyu talks about fragments and myriad worlds. Rika questions if she died. Kind of a weird question, right? But she is in a weird dimension out of space and time, so... And Hanyu says that she's weak and pretty much doesn't know anything. And she can't do anything either. In this shard, as Rika calls it, it is June of 1983, as we saw in the first episode. That really freaks Rika out. She mentions repeating it and were 100 years not enough, but she bolsters herself. I'm no longer that little girl who knew nothing of the truth. She knows the rules of Hinamizawa and isn't going to rely on luck. She also says that she knows who kills Furude Rika, which is her. She is Furude Rika. Okay. Rika says that they've won their future before and will do it again. And then we cut back to the last shot of the first episode, with Rika watching over Reina and Keiichi. The actual opening starts playing, with all sorts of things to ooh and ah over. We get shots of objects, people, possible events, distinct scenery, Rika running through a forest, trying to desperately reach something or someone. It's a lot to take in, and I'm sure you could spend an hour scrutinizing it, but frankly, I don't have that kind of time. Besides, the opening is meant to entice you, get you to keep watching, and it definitely does that job. After the opening, we cut back to Reina, looking forlorn as she watches Keiichi reading the magazine about the construction worker butchered over the dam project. She raises her billhook cleaver as if to strike, but Keiichi notices and actually scares her with his scream. She topples backwards, then explains that she got the cleaver from home to help him go through the trash to get Kenta-kun, the colonel. And it certainly seemed like it would help. But as it's getting dark, they decide to leave and come back the next day. Before the scene ends, the camera pans to the cliff above them where Rika had been, but she is now gone. At this point, it seems like there might be something off about Reina. Her odd answer to whether she knew about any violence in Hinamizawa in the first episode, coupled with her holding a cleaver above her head like she was going to hit Keiichi, makes her seem dangerous. But at the same time, she is so upbeat and seems genuinely thankful for Keiichi's help. It's hard to imagine her wanting to hurt him in any way. This creates a discordant feeling where we like her and see her as innocent and harmless, but also distrust her. It's messed up. The next day, we learn about physical education at the Hinamizawa school. The school serves a very small number of children, so everyone is put together, no matter their age. This is why Rika and Sadako are with Mion, Reina, and Keiichi despite the age differences. I don't really know how teaching works in such a school, but it's something that actually used to be somewhat common in the past, I believe, so go with it. I guess the younger kids work on their homework while the older kids learn their material and vice versa? Anyways, the series does tell us how PE works there. Everyone does whatever. As long as you're moving around, getting exercise, you're doing okay. With this freedom, our game club decides, of course, to turn PE into a game of tag, which makes the most sense. But since regular tag is too simple for these game masters, they decide to play zombie tag instead, where when you're tagged, you become it as well. Reina is scared by the name, because of course she is, the cute little enigma, while the other club members try to ease her fears by teasing her, because that's how it works. A quick note, the girls here are wearing old school PE uniforms because this does take place in the 80s. The short type things are called bloomers and are thankfully not used in Japanese schools anymore. You might still see them sometimes in anime though. Also, when explaining the game, it seems that Mion does actually call it zombie in Japanese, which is just kinda cool. It fits well with the time period since zombies were arguably at their most popular in the 80s. We also learn another one of the club's rules. Rule number 3. You must partake in every game and enjoy it without question. This shows again that club activities also bolster friendship and trust. Every member of the group will play the games and never complain, even if it's a game they're bad at. They should never give up, even if the odds seem stacked against them, and they should always give it everything they've got. Good life lessons, really. The game starts with Sadako as the zombie, and immediately she starts asking other students for help. But Keiichi doesn't complain. He just says that he didn't know zombies could ask humans for help. Fair enough. But he rolls with the punches. His outlook is, there's no such thing as an unfair game, you just have to figure out the right way to play it. Which he does when he starts doling out incorrect information to the students in an attempt to lure the girls to the front of the school. That blows up in his face though when Mion does the same thing. Great minds think alike. Reina finds Rika and thinks she's safe, only for zombie Rika to slowly approach her, promising to eat her alive gently. It's a fantastically cute, funny, and horrifying moment. Rika ignores Reina in favor of Keiichi as Mion and Sadako converge on him, girls against a single boy I guess, and Keiichi gets eaten. There are worse fates. Reina is the winner, Keiichi is the loser, and the only one that gets punished because why the hell not? And Mion is the lying sack of crap that pretended to be a zombie to avoid being eaten. She's the one I want to follow if the zombie apocalypse ever happens. Afterwards, there's another frightening moment with Reina standing behind Keiichi, reflected in the glass and looking all kinds of creepy. But it passes as they decide to go get Kenta-kun from the dump. Reina walks fearlessly down the street with her cleaver, not a care in the world, but her face changes yet again when Keiichi offers to carry it for her. Again, it's brief and disturbing. Cleaver in hand, Keiichi goes to town on the trash and works his way to the colonel. In the middle, however, he has a flash, an image we've seen before, the bloody baseball bat from the beginning of the first episode. But it only makes him pause for a second, then he gets back to work. Finally, the Colonel is free, and Reina is all over her new friend? Lawn ornament? Bedroom mascot? When Keiichi asks how they'll move it, Reina gets an odd look on her face. It lasts longer than any of the other times, and it's unsettling largely because nothing happens. She moves past it, and Keiichi lets it slide. It's just not brought up. No doubt Keiichi is fearful of creating an awkward situation. After all, he clearly cares about Reina, but he doesn't actually know much about her. Maybe there's a reason for her strange behavior that she doesn't want to discuss, so it makes sense why he keeps quiet. But it still feels somewhat unnerving. Wrapping the statue in a tarp, Reina and Keiichi take it to her house, and the next day at school we learn what Keiichi saw there. Statues from various places around town, the sort placed in front to attract attention, and a post office box, which is cute and needed to be taken home because it's big and red, Reina says. Clearly, there is a lot about Reina that no one will ever understand. I hope that didn't sound judgmental. I don't kink shame anyone. If big red mailboxes are your thing, you do you. Rika comes in and the group talks about the upcoming festival, Watanagashi, or the Cotton Drifting Festival. We show gratitude for old futons by floating their cotton down the river, Rika says. Sure, that makes sense. And it's mentioned that the festival will have a club activity, the 5-Demon Battle Royale, where the members play all the games they can and eat all the food they can stomach. Everything's a competition. After school, Mion, Reina, and Keiichi run into Tomitake, who is evidently well known in the village. Keiichi admits his fears that Tomitake is hiding his true reason for coming to Hinamizawa, that something doesn't feel right about him. Mion explains that the rumor is that he's looking for a girlfriend, but is too shy to actually ask anyone out. Far from how Keiichi saw him, as some sort of detective or spy. Mion laughs while Keiichi feels a little foolish, but Reina stares, as if lost in thought. We jump to the night of the festival and see Rika in her Shrine Maiden attire. She has a very important role to play in the festival, but only at the end of it, so the group can horse around together during their battle royale. They eat a ton, with Mion, Sadako, and Keiichi showing their competitive spirit, then Tomitake shows up and takes their picture. He was going to take pictures of Rika's performance, he says, but ended up having other plans. He's teased by Mion and told to hang out with the group and play sometime by Keiichi. More friends are never bad, right? He leaves, but before he gets far, Rika calls him back and pets his head. Everybody loves Tomitake. Rika leaves to get ready for her dance, while Mion grabs Sadako and tasks Keiichi with pulling Reina out of a large crowd of people. The pair share a special moment of hand-holding and blushing, and then Mion asks if he had a nice time with her. So it's official. This series is shipping Reina and Keiichi hard, and I wholeheartedly approve. I love those two together. Rika performs her dance as the Shrine Maiden, or priestess, of the Furude Shrine, using a ceremonial farm hoe. The dance looks amazing, with great animation and direction. We see the drum being beat, the villagers smiling, and Rika metaphorically plowing the earth. And in the middle of it, we see Tomitake meeting someone by the river, a blonde woman we haven't seen before, and she addresses him as Jiro, clearly someone he knows well. But who is she? A love interest? If so, then why does the music at that moment sound so portentous? And why do we see Rika swiftly swing the hoe down after we see this mystery woman's face? The episode ends there, and we get the closing song and animation, filled with things returning fans will understand and which will completely confuse new fans. Just more things to look forward to. Or not. The artwork that makes up the closing is breathtaking. Single images, and each one filled with detail and color. I can imagine buying any one of these and hanging them up in my home. Sure, people might wonder why I'd want a painting of a teenager beating someone to death with a baseball bat, but I get to decide how to decorate my home, nobody else. Well, Me and my girlfriend, who would probably leave me if I tried to hang this up in our place. Oh, don't go, baby. I wasn't serious. The final shot, with so many calendar pages torn on the floor, blood splattered everywhere, does exactly what it needs to. It tells returning fans, you know what's up, while telling new fans, figure this out. Sooner or later, you'll see if you're right. It's perfect. The image stays with you, the bright yellow contrasting with the disturbing nature of the scene. I think that image alone is enough to give some people nightmares. God bless anime. That wraps up episode 2. I'll be back after episode 3 airs. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Thanks for watching. If you want to find me online, I'm at ShaggyJebus on Twitter, and leaving a comment on this video is another great way to get my attention. Feel free to share this with anyone you think might like it, and remember, every time you ring that bell, an angel gets its wings. And every time a person subscribes, I kill that angel, steal its wings, and add them to my collection. Stay safe, everyone.